recording audio. Motherfucker. Let's try round 2. I have nothing scripted, and I had like the best intro on that last video. Ugh. Me sideways. Hi friends, welcome back to my channel. Boy, do I have a treat for you today. This, my friends, is my first ever book that I wrote. I think I was 13 when I wrote this. I mentioned it in my AuthorTube newbie chat. This book right here. Being my first ever written work. Sorry, I had some, fix that. This isn't a book. There's a total of 4 pages here. This is all I have left of this book. I wrote 132 pages when I've actually finished it. Like, there was an ending to this book. And I remember it was 132 pages. How do I remember that number? I don't know. I have no idea how this has remained in my possession for math. 18 years? 18 years. This has remained in my possession for the age of a high school graduate. I typed it on the computer at my mom's house, which, not to age myself or anything, it was the 90s. We had dial-up internet. The screen was nice and, pixelized, but I did have Word. I typed this on word processor. Hot coffee. I just keep drinking it, hoping that it's not gonna burn my mouth this time. We're gonna find out about the first few pages. I gotta tell you though, all I have is the first few pages. I don't know where the rest of it is. I was dreaming a long, beautiful dream of little critters and birds singing peacefully when a soft breeze woke me up. I opened my eyes and stared at the bright green leaves on the trees above. They were swaying softly in the breeze. A lot of modifiers here. Moving on. I wished I could sleep longer. It was such a good dream. I rolled over onto my side and closed my eyes, but I was already awake. There was no use trying to go back to sleep. I was not really tired anymore. I stood up and yawned, stretching as far as my arms would reach. There was a smell of ginger in the air. It was so sweet I could almost taste it. I felt so good. It was a very lovely feeling. Something in the air lifted all of my troubles right off of me. Did she have troubles to lift off in the first place? There were no troubles mentioned. Moving on. I felt as though every problem had escaped me and I would never have any worries again. I looked around and found myself in an odd forest. All around me I saw peculiar plants. There were giant trees with long green thorny vines dangling at the ground and swaying in the breeze. Short stubby mushrooms were protruding out from the thick, rough, brunette-colored bark. The emerald grass was so soft it was like a fluffy pillow extended across the forest floor. It felt as though I were walking on a cloud. Flowers of all different shapes, sizes, and colors were growing everywhere. There were big red ones and small blue ones, round white ones and droopy yellow ones, fan-shaped ones and bell-shaped ones. They were so beautiful. I pulled one up and held it in my hand. The petals were like silk. I had never felt anything like it before. Little blue bubbles were drifting gracefully through the air. I caught one in my hand and held it. It would not burst. It just stayed still like a small glass bead. I let the bubble go and looked over to my left. A small clear brook was flowing over round stones and grainy sand. So that is everything that has no comments from my mom. I don't really have anything to say about it. It's descriptive. I mean, I feel like I could like go in and doctor this up and make a decent description out of it. It's not awful. It definitely uses my 13-year-old self's vocabulary, which I can actually point out the places where I used the thesaurus on my computer. Anyway, let's continue. And we'll read some notes from my mom as well. Through the gap between some trees, I saw enormous mountains covered in glistening snow and lifeless branches scattered everywhere. On the tallest mountain, there was a magnificent crystal castle made of ice. And my mom says to that, "How do you know? What have you heard about it? Any legends, rumors, stories?" It came out of nowhere. It really did. Like we're in a forest. She just wakes up. She has no idea what's going on. She has no idea where she is, anything about this forest, but she can see through the trees, there's a mountain, and she knows there's a crystal castle up there. That must be where the breeze was coming from, I thought to myself. I thought about going there, but then I came to my senses. It was much too cold to go there. A strange feeling suddenly came over me. I felt like someone or something was watching me. It was odd, but it did not seem to bother me very much. There were too many questions buzzing in my head, like little bees. Okay, first of all, again, we're in a forest. We have no idea where we are, what we're doing here. We see that way off in the distance, there's a mountain that apparently has a crystal castle. Can she see it, or did she already know it was there? But she thinks to herself, maybe I'll go there. But then thinks better of it because it's too cold. Like nothing about, it's probably going to take days, and I don't know anything about mountain climbing, or, I don't have the supplies to get there. No, I just don't want to be cold. I mean, to be fair, I don't like to be cold. So apparently 13-year-old me was thinking the same thing.
Whoa. Hey guys, Liz's husband here. I can confirm Liz is terrible with the cold, and she lives in northern Minnesota, so go figure. It gets like -40 around here. She steals my heat during the winter. I call her the heat vampire. So, I don't know what she's doing in Minnesota. Anyway, let's get back to the video. It's good seeing you. Bye. Whoa.
Where am I, and what am I doing here? I thought to myself. I did not even know how long I had been in this strange place. I thought really hard, but I just could not work out how I got here. As hard as I tried, nothing came to me. My mom crossed some words out, and she said, instead of "where am I, what am I doing here?" she says, "Where is this place? Why am I here?" And she also crossed out, so I said, I thought really hard, but I just could not work out how I got here. She crossed out how I got here. I could not work out the puzzle. So she's doing some copy editing. Nope. So she's doing some line edits and content edits for me. So that's pretty fantastic. Like, that's a good deal right there. A little bit of both. Mom, you could be an editor. Then I remembered. I could not remember everything in perfect detail. I just saw many small images in my mind. Everything was all a blur. I heard the terrified screams of young children crying for their helpless parents in the fields. I saw blazing red flames licking the walls of homes of families that were once so close to me. I saw the faces of my family melt away before my eyes. Mom's got some comments. She says, "Need something for transition. What did she do while trying to remember?" And she says, idea. She needs to stand and move around a while, etc. I agree. This came out of nowhere. Like, she's looking around. What is this place? Oh, there's a freezing castle over there that I don't want to go to. And oh, I remember my past, I think. No transition there. Also, she has a suggestion for this sentence. Then I remembered. I could not remember everything in perfect detail. I just saw many small images in my mind. And my mom wrote this. A smattering of images began to flow. I like that. I like that a lot. A smattering of images began to flow. Flames, melting, crying. What did it mean? Mom, you want to do some more editing of my books? Because that's good. That's good. That's some good stuff. A smattering of images began to flow. These images came to my mind, but that is all they were. They were just pictures with no meanings. Each one of these pictures brought pain to my heart and tears to my eyes. But nothing was completely solid. I could not remember much of anything, and I was not really sure I wanted to. I did not want to think much more of it at the moment. There were other things on my mind. Right now, I needed to find a way to get out of this place. I thought that if the brook flowed in one direction, it had to lead out of the place eventually. Maybe if I walked alongside it for a while, I would surely find a way out. But that could take days. I had no idea how big this place was, and was sure it was bigger than any wood I had ever been in before. So first of all, again, has no idea how big this forest is, has no idea how long it's going to take to get out of it, but through those trees over there, there's a big crystal castle that's too cold to go to. She knows that. She doesn't know anything about this forest. Also, I'm going to read this last sentence again. But that could take days. I had no idea how big this place was and was sure it was bigger than any wood I had ever been in before. I thought I was being so clever with my word choice because, I didn't want to use forest or woods or, here in Minnesota, we talk about the woods. We go camping in the woods. We have a fire in the woods. I live in the woods. But I thought I was being so, fantastical in my fantastical world by calling it wood. I wasn't sure how big this wood was. Are you in a log? Wait, I heard a loud grumbling noise. I was startled by it until I realized it was coming from the pit of my stomach.
Husband here again. I must say, this is a very accurate statement about Liz. That bitch is always hungry. Okay, bye.
I had not eaten in days. I was so hungry I felt sick. What was there to eat in this odd place? Okay. If your stomach is rumbling and you don't recognize it as your own stomach, you got some issues you gotta work out. Because I can tell you every time my stomach grumbles, I know for a fact that that's my stomach telling me it's time to eat. You just hear some... Where'd that come from? Oh, right there. I'm not being very nice to my younger self. It's a great book, I think. Were any of those plants edible? I went over to a mushroom and took a bite. That's sketchy. It was the most delicious food I had ever tasted. It was so soft and sweet, it crumbled to pieces between my teeth. I waited. I didn't feel sick. It must not be poisonous. Because apparently you can find that out after, just moments of not getting sick. Maybe all these plants were just as good. I pulled a strange green plant out of the soft, moist earth. I dusted some of the soil off the roots and bit into it. It tasted like a big, juicy carrot, but it had a powdery texture to it. I put that down and pulled a blue wildflower out of the ground. I nibbled off some of it, but stopped because it had a very bitter taste to it. That left a very bad taste in my mouth, so I went to get a drink of water from the stream. That was an awful lot of convenience put into one paragraph. I'm hungry. This is a strange forest. Oh, let's try some of the food because I think it's going to be edible. And it is, just like that. Moving on. No. I looked down at myself into my reflection. Oh boy, here we go with the reflection description of self. Could I have been more cliche? Okay. I looked down at myself into my reflection. My pale skin was rosy from the cold air, and I was wearing no shoes. My long golden hair matched my beautiful silk dress that I got as a gift from my grandmother. I had a small round face and lovely sapphire eyes. My father told me what a beautiful young girl I was. It was always my favorite thing to hear. So, first things first, my mom crossed out silk and replaced it with satin. Apparently satin dress was a little bit more appropriate for this in her eyes. I mean, she has no idea where she is, how she got there, has images of a burning village, and now all of a sudden knows that her grandma gave her this dress and her dad always told her she was beautiful. It was her favorite thing to hear. I mean, Mom also pointed that out. She can't remember then in Pop's full memory. She says, gradually a piece here, a piece there, like a puzzle. I agree. I definitely agree. I took a sip of the water, and it tasted so good and cold that I drank for a very long time, letting the cold liquid silk run down my throat. It felt as though liquid ice was flowing down my throat. No comment. I'm gonna just keep going. When I finished, I stood up and looked around. I remembered the opening behind the giant tree next to the stream and thought that must be the way I came here. Suddenly she knows that. I decided to follow it downstream. I didn't really want to go back to my village because though I could not remember what happened there, I knew that whatever I would find there would be disturbing and there was really no point going back. That's an awful lot of well-knowing. Good for you for not wanting to go to... I mean, I guess she remembers flames and she remembers tragedy. I wouldn't want to go back there either. Then something glistening brightly in the sun caught my eye. It was my necklace. How convenient. It was floating down the brook. What kind of necklace is floating down the brook? What is it made out of? Is it made out of foam? Like floating? Floating. It's floating down the stream. A piece of metal is floating down the stream. I mean, there's magic elements in this world. Maybe that's why. It's a magic necklace. Obviously, it's a relic to the world. It was floating down the brook. It must have fallen off when I got a drink of water. Okay, so apparently she was wearing this necklace for the entire beginning, not knowing where she was or anything, didn't recognize this necklace on her neck, didn't recognize this necklace was missing when she looked at her reflection in the water, so cliche-like, but now she recognizes it. It was too far away to get a hold of now. I reached out to try and grab it, but it was no use. It was too far away. I reached as far as my arm could stretch, but it was still inches away. Then something strange happened. The locket floated towards my hands so I could reach it. It was like an invisible force was pushing it towards me. I was so surprised that I almost forgot to grab it. I grasped the chain in my hands and pulled it out of the water. That was strange. I wondered how that happened. Who ever heard of something floating upstream? I decided it did not really matter as long as I had my locket back. So I think we're introduced to some of those magic elements. I held the locket in my hands. It was a small gold heart with a golden chain. On the heart, there were shiny pink flowers with green vines. I feel like I had an image of this that I used it for. Like, I must have seen a locket with similar description that I used as reference. Because I feel like this description popped something up into my memory, but I don't know what it was. I never had a locket of my own, so it wasn't my own. It opened somehow to show some kind of picture, but I did not know what it was because I could never get it open. My mom says that should be, I was never able to get it open. A little bit of line editing there. I always wondered what the picture was. I thought it might be a beautiful picture of my mother or my grandmother, but I never knew. I put the locket back around my neck and continued walking. I followed the brook for a long way until I got so tired that I had to rest. I sat down in the soft grass next to the brook. I sat there for a while watching a fluffy cloud roll by, thinking to myself, how big was this wood? I thought to myself. I took a sip of water and continued walking. I walked for what seemed like hours. My legs were aching. I could not feel my toes, and my eyelids started getting heavy, and my mind started wandering with my feet. That was a nice run-on sentence. My mom cut that down for me. She says, I could not feel my toes, period. My eyelids started getting heavy, and my mind started wandering with my feet. She says it should be, and my mind clouded over again. So those are some of my mom's edits. I watched as the sun went from directly above the trees to the far left. Soon the entire sky turned amber. When it turned a deep velvety blue, I began to worry a little. Was I ever going to get out of here? I didn't walk very far after that. I grew so tired that I had to stop and rest again. I felt drowsy. I could not walk another step. I lay down in the soft grass and stared up at the stars twinkling in the deep blue sea like diamonds. Without noticing, I dozed off into a deep but troubled sleep. I would just like to point out, I think I tried to go with both a metaphor and a simile here. I lay down in the soft grass and stared up at the stars, twinkling in the deep blue sea like diamonds. So the metaphor is the deep blue sea, which is actually the sky. Twinkling like diamonds is your simile. I get where I was going, but don't pile both in one sentence. Come on. Okay, so she's sleeping now. There was screaming and shouting. Children were crying for their parents. Flames were dancing everywhere. Degmore Village had been burned to ashes. Oh, we have a name. Degmore Village. Apparently, the name of her village popped into her mind in her sleep. The friendly eyes of a young boy I knew so well suddenly gone cold and black. I woke up with a cold sweat. It was still dark out, but I could see a little bit in the moonlight. After a moment of heavy breathing, a drink of water, I was able to fall back asleep to a dreamless slumber. I opened my eyes to find it light outside. I was lying in the soft pillow-like grass, staring up at the dark gray sky that was threatening to split open into strong rain at any moment. What a horrible night I had. My nightmares kept me up almost all night. I barely got any sleep at all. Except for 2 paragraphs ago, I said I was able to fall back asleep into a dreamless slumber. A bit of continuity errors. A part of me wished that I could remember everything that happened to me in the past few days so that I knew what all these dreams and pictures in my head meant. Another bigger, stronger part of me was glad that I could not remember the torture and misery that I was sure went on. I decided not to think any more about it and got up and went over to the brook. I washed my face and hands in it before taking a nice, long, refreshing drink. It was delicious. It's silk like water. I found some juicy-looking fruits in bushes and trees and gathered up as much as I could. I sat down on the cool, soft ground and started eating my breakfast. It was delightful. I spent most of an hour devouring the plump apples and peaches. Apparently, some apples and peaches appeared in this forest that didn't have them before. It is a magical forest. We're going to move past that. After I was completely filled up, I decided that I had better get a move on. The forest was not getting much smaller. The forest was not getting much smaller, but it was getting smaller, apparently. The forest was not getting much smaller, and I wanted to get out of this place. As beautiful and enchanted as it was starting to give me the creeps. Everywhere I looked, I felt like many eyes were laid upon me. I did not like the feeling at all. It was very disturbing. I started walking along the stream once more. I had a feeling I was going in circles. I walked on all day, and nothing seemed to change. I could have sworn I had seen the same exact markings in a tree at least 3 different times. Dun dun dun. I walked on all day and continued into the night. Still, there were no changes. By sunrise the next day, I was so tired I had to stop and take a rest. When I lay down in the grass, I felt like I was looking up into the sky through the same gaps in the trees as I did the other day. I was getting confused. This went on for 5 more days. That's a drag. I walked on all day, stopping once or twice to get a drink of water or find a nice piece of fruit to eat. I would then find a nice tree to lie under and fall asleep. A lot of nice stuff in this forest. Every day was the same. I just kept walking. I was getting so tired of this forest, and the eerie feeling of being watched was growing stronger. Soon I started seeing things dart across the trees out of the corner of my eye. But when I turned my head to look, there would be nothing there. Every morning when I woke up, I would start off thinking, this would be the day that I found my way out of the trees. This would be the day that I would find my way out, but the trees never got thinner. I almost felt like they were growing thicker. My nightmares started to get stronger. I started hearing screams of my brother and sister, and then I would hear my name being called into the night. Madison! Madison, it's me, William! Would you like to come and play ball? So, I was right, her name is Madison. I woke with a start in the middle of the night, beads of sweat pouring down my face. I was breathing very heavy and was surprised to feel a single tear trickling down my already damp cheek. Sorry, I have the hiccups now. I could not take it any longer. I was sick of this old forest. I was tired of waking up screaming and confused to horrifying nightmares. And I was exhausted from walking for days and still not coming to an end. I hated this place, and I wanted to have nothing to do with it. All I wanted was to get out of here. I promised myself that as soon as I did get out of this odd forest, I would never step foot in it again. With that in mind, I fell back into a deep, dreamless sleep. I could not say exactly how long it was, but it was sure nice. I did not awake from any more frightening dreams, and when I finally did awake, I felt so relaxed that I could have walked on for days without resting. But when I woke up, I found myself not in the forest anymore, but in a very unusual place indeed. And that is the end of chapter 1 of this nameless book. What do you guys think of my story? Do you think it's worth creating something out of? Was it fun to listen to? Would you read a book that starts off like this? Like, did it capture your attention enough? Let me know in the comments. So that's all I have for you today, my friends. If you liked this video, make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like this video, make sure you give it a thumbs down. I want all the feedback. What do you think? I don't have a schedule for when I post videos, so make sure you hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you know when I'm going to post the next one. And I will see you next time.